So this is a sacred space for you to untangle by using that vibrational frequency to untangle thoughts. Just let it flow. Trust your words, trust your voice, trust your emotions that are coming out of your mouth. Just let them flow, because sometimes as we use our voice to untangle these patterns, thoughts, looping, whatever it is, stories, experiences, correlations start to come through. We are social creatures. We heal through the eyes of an empathetic witness. Everyone is owning the chair of the holy witness, of the empathetic witness. It's that fertile listening that we talked about. Fertile listening, allowing another sister to bloom as we witness her blossom, right? As we witness her growth, right? We are just literally witnessing the seasonal changes of each other's lives, and how beautiful to see come into fullest bloom through stories unfolding and thoughts detangling. Allow your story to be told and heard 3 times to the eyes of a holy witness. Hold this space for the story to be told 3, 4, maybe 5 times through that empathetic witness, and then we let it go. Carolyn Mice says, otherwise, your spirit gets taken away within the story. The more you tell it, the more your spirit starts to identify and get kind of taken away with the story. Okay? So this is the liminal, the sacred space that we have created to tell the stories as many times as we need, as the holy witness, sitting in the seat of the holy witness, as the empathetic witness that allows the story to be let go. Right? Tell it so many times and then let it go. So I'm going to go over a couple of journal prompts. If you want to write them down, fine. If not, that's fine too. But let's just continue the threads. Why the drama triangle and your internal family parts? Because recognizing them is the first step to reclaiming your power by collapsing the illusion between you and truth. So I want you to ask yourself, where have I given my power away? Where have I given my power away? The drama triangle is almost like a game that we play with people that keeps the story, the narrative. We're playing the game, right? Like keeps people in our life. We're participating in it. We're participating in the game. So the next question is, what if the game is rigged? What if the game is rigged and the only way to quote unquote win is to not play, is to not play the game? How have I been playing or accepting the game in my life? It's a game of power dynamics. It's a game of righteousness. It's a game of perpetual patterns and looping. And we get to hold our 3D self and our 5th self. And this question will unfold, but I want you to ask yourself, how does my 5th dimensional self deal with the power dynamics of my 3rd dimensional self? Third dimensional self works in power over dominance. It's a conditioned societal programming. It's that hyper masculinity. It's the patriarchal pace. It's the win by defeat of others. It lives in all of us. We're all on this planet. It's a thing. Doesn't need to be a bad thing. It's a thing. We can hold that thing too. But how does the 5th dimensional definition of power deal with the dynamics of that? 5th dimension, truth, compassion, love equals power. And the adversary voice is a powerful force. We all have it. Remember that the drama triangle is a manipulation of others to keep us safe. It's also a manipulation of our own story to keep us safe. Remember, these dynamics happen outside as well as inside, and it's usually happening inside first and then projected out onto the relationships around. Your internal environment mirrors your external environment. So we're going to talk about the adversarial voice quite a bit, hopefully, throughout our time together. And I want you to ask yourself this. What if it's not what happened to me that's the problem? Rather, it is what the adversarial voice has told me about what has happened to me that is the problem. I want you to start thinking about what are your internal dynamics with your adversary? Who's running the show? Right? Where in my life have I accepted the adversary's version of what happened to me? Remember, the adversary aims to keep us small, safe, contained, but not in the conscious fragmentation of containment, contained in the unconscious way through control, illusion, identifying the story, identifying the adversary, so that we can drop deeper into the triangle and we can see the story objectively, right? So we can witness ourselves. The adversary is totally camouflage in unconscious fragmentation. Sounds exactly like our own voice. In fact, there is no separation when we're unconsciously fragmented. We don't know that the adversary's voice is not our story. I talked about it a little bit of, is it intuition or is it fear-based trauma? How do I know that that's my voice from intuition versus the adversary? So the adversary has a key component, and it's that it does not feed you life. The adversary voice is not life-giving. Okay? The adversary voice feeds the drama loop in an effort to validate its own righteousness. If you feel yourself in a conversation needing to be right and charged emotionally in that righteousness, chances are you might be in an ego trap, an adversary trap. You might be needing to justify yourself to be right, to be safe, even at the expense of remaining in victim consciousness to quote unquote win. Okay? I'm not saying this as like that it's a bad thing, because again, we're not castrating out our 3D in order to float in 5D light and love all the time. That's just not how it works. It's both and. We get to witness our victim consciousness. We get to drop deeper into the deeper triangle. We get to collapse and surrender into the cohesive self, but we have to see both sides in order to do that. We have to witness ourselves. So the adversary is totally camouflaged until we awaken to the adversary as not actually our voice. We have to be able to witness it. They say that every time you identify a pattern, that pattern falls off a little bit more. The problem with that is that we have to identify the pattern, and sometimes the pattern is painful to identify. So it doesn't mean it's fun to identify patterns. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's really not, because like, oh shit, there I am again, doing it again. Damn it. And then we fall into what? Guilt and shame. But what is that? Guilt and shame are not life-giving energies. They're anti-life energies. They aim to keep you small. This is adversarial. This is your adversary voice. It's opportunist energy. It's not creative energy. You, my friend, are creative energy. At your core, your true self, you are creative energy. You're not opportunist energy. Creative energy feeds life force. And the adversary, it feeds off of opportunist energy. Like, what does that mean? Well, life force energy vibrates. The adversary does not vibrate, and we must vibrate it out of the system. So opportunist energy looks like outside circumstance to feed internal narratives, right? So the adversary is not actually innate creative wisdom that feeds life. The adversary is looking for outside narratives to leverage to keep you in loops that actually don't feed life, but might justify the ego. So there's the camouflage. There's the camouflage. Sometimes it feels good to justify the ego, to stand in our righteousness and be right in our victim consciousness. This is the camouflage. Drop deeper, right? It's actually hijacking energy to your creative life force energy. Opportunist energy that feeds on external narratives is hijacking your internal life force energy, that innate wisdom. True life force energy creates from nothing. It doesn't need a narrative to expand, right? It's the void from which we all are birthed. We didn't birth in our mother's womb from a narrative, right? We birthed from a void. True life force energy births from the void of the nothingness from which it came, right? So the void is actually what feeds life. So if you think about that metaphorically, every time you drop into a void of your life, what's next? Where am I going? Who am I? What do I wear? That nothingness is actually what feeds life. If we are fueling off of opportunist energy that needs external narratives to justify its internal cause, adversary. Just think about it, drop into it. It's a great place to sink into and feel, am I under an adversary attack? Guess what? Your adversary attacks you. So anti-life energy, the adversary, leverages core wounds to perpetuate patterns stuck in guilt and shame. Whoa, my own adversary leverages my anti-life narratives, my shame, my guilt, my original core wounds. These are dead patterns that only densify and weigh the body down even more every time we engage in them. That's why, when you're under an adversary attack and you tap into your soma, you tap into your body, how does your body feel? Ugh, heavy, fuck, dense, why, again, fuck them, da, 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 da. Victim, persecutor, rescuer, original core wound, I'm not safe. And there are circumstances where we are not safe and we have to identify those too. So no spiritual bypassing, but the body feels heavier in these densified programs, being weighed down with the adversary substrate that doesn't vibrate. It doesn't feed life. No, exit, drop deeper. What's down there? What's asking to be seen? How old is it? Is it true? Is it true? Am I unworthy? Do I not matter? Is that true? That is not true. And if you need help being reminded that that is not true, you've got plenty of sisters in this program. Call me directly. It is not true. And sometimes we need help. We need help because when we're stuck in adversary patterns and we are in unconscious fragmentation, we might think it's true. Our adversary is attacking us with every defense mechanism to prove what? Righteousness. Prove that it's true. Drop deeper. It's not true. We can rewrite history by returning to these fragments of yourself to rewrite history. What? Another point of why the drama? Why are we dropping deeper? Why are we going to this work to create spaciousness for these parts that feel densified and heavy and anti-life? It's because we can actually rewrite our narrative by revisiting them and rewrite history. How are we rewriting history? By holding them different, which changes our perspective today. Because now the history is what happened today when they were held properly. By who? By you. With truth, love, compassion, connected to internal source, that true definition of power, right? The adversary's only tool is illusion. To disempower the adversary, we ask one simple reality check. Is it true? Is it true today? Am I safe right now? Does my mother really wish ill on me? And if she does, do I wish ill on myself? Or have I internalized her narrative as my adversarial voice? Because this is what happens too, is that we take core wounding from our foundational fundamental caregivers and we internalize their voice as our adversary. Now our mother, why does it sound like my mother's in my head? Because it really is. She really is. We've internalized it as our own voice. Unconscious fragmentation. You have a fragmented part that you're unconsciously taking on as your own narrative. Let's make it consciously fragmented before we're able to collapse into the narrative, into initiation, and come out a little bit more the cohesive self. And I'll tell you what, that is the tension of in between, and that is the hardest place to hold in our life. The tension of the in between. But Maureen Murdoch will say, hold the tension, don't abort your rebirth. And sometimes we abort our rebirth, and that's okay too. Compassion, because again, ascension, right? The pattern lives here, 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 here. I had to revisit corporate 3 times before I finally quit. That was a part of elevating my experience. Every time I re-entered the space, I knew a little bit more that this wasn't for me. And then I would sit in it like, oh my God, I did this to myself again. And guess what that was? Guilt, shame, adversary attack. But also, guess what that was? A necessary part of the collapse. The guilt, the shame, the adversary attack, the recognizing it so I can drop deeper, so that I can surrender, so that I can come out a little bit more of my cohesive self on the other end. Okay. So last question, and then we'll open it up for shares. What if I have been accepting a false premise of myself? What was the false premise? How did it change how I view myself? And how might it look different if I released the false premise?